Greetings, fans of the Saturn Junkyard, and welcome to a very special episode. I'm Nuno, and today I'll be joined by our West Coast host, Brian,
Why, thank you, Nuno, good sir, and Merry Christmas, everyone.
and the founder of the Saturn Junkyard itself, our dear Simon.
Hi there. Merry Christmas.
Because this is the season for happiness, generosity, and playing lots and lots of Saturn games, we got together to talk about some of our favorite Saturn games with Christmas elements to them. Hope you enjoy.
So today I'm going to talk about a little-known Christmas game, which may also be the best-known Christmas game, Christmas Nights. So I'm just going to try to show that in a way that doesn't catch the light box as much. Anyway, this is not the original retail box art. In fact, the original version did not have long box art, at least not in North America. This is an artist's reimagining, and that artist being David Lee of the Sega Saturn Shiro podcast. David, thank you very much. This is awesome. You rock. Merry Christmas, buddy. So for those who may not be as familiar with it, Christmas Nights was a holiday-themed promotional sampler which came out during the '96 holiday season. It coincided with the launch window of the full game that it was based on, Nights into Dreams, and that was published by Sega for the Sega Saturn. It was developed by Sonic Team. Nights into Dreams was just a very unique game for its time. And accordingly, I would also argue that Christmas Nights was a very unique demo. It did a lot more. It was also a lot more than just a simple sampler or demo disc. I mean, the most obvious changes were some of the reskinning of textures in the stage and some new assets that, rather than having grass and dirt and flowers on the ground, it was all snowy and had lights and just all sorts of just Christmassy all over the place. Candy canes, bells, whatever. And all the characters were done up in Santa costumes and just holiday-themed attire. Those were the most obvious things, as well as the background music was changed out for a very chipper version of Jingle Bells. And all of those things kind of played together to really create an atmosphere that was uniquely festive for the time, and even since. I mean, you just don't see a lot of games go for that kind of over-the-top, just chipper, infectious, festive atmosphere, and Christmas Nights was incredibly unique in that regard. Also, the other thing that made Christmas Nights a very unique experience was that it had a lot more things added to it. It wasn't just a demo disc. I mean, it had a lot of unlockable components to it. I mean, you have art galleries and karaoke mode and sound tests and what else? It was you had an unlockable Sonic the Hedgehog mode, which, as far as I know, was the first fully polygonal rendition of Sonic the Hedgehog in a 3D space. So when I think about the time I spend revisiting Christmas Nights, which honestly is pretty routine, it's almost become a Christmas tradition for me. I'll play it about 8 or 10 times throughout the holiday season, and it's not a very long game. Like I said, it's a demo disc, and it maybe takes about 10 minutes to get through beginning to end when you're playing through both of the scenarios with both of the characters. And that time is also bookended with a cinematic, or a couple of cinematics, which have some still frames and narration, and it's all very colorful and vibrant. It has a story, but it's really cheesy. But at the same time, it's really warm and it's incredibly endearing. Nights, or Christmas Nights in particular, it's one of those games that I can play anytime and I will feel a little bit better at the end of it. It doesn't really matter how shitty my day was or what kind of mood I'm in. or how stressful things are, this is a game that I can come back to time and time again. If you could print Christmas spirit on a disc, Christmas Nights. Christmas Nights is probably it, and for that reason, it's been one of my most enduring holiday traditions, and I can only imagine that it will be going forward. I can always trust that when it's Christmas time and I want something to really turn it around, get me out of a funk, get me feeling, I don't know, just a little bit better about everything, Christmas Nights is gonna do the trick, and I love it for that. So there you go.
My first Saturn was actually a Christmas present and came bundled with several games, among which was Christmas Nights. So in my mind, both are just so interconnected, the Saturn and Christmas, Christmas and the Saturn. And Christmas Nights is the epitome of that. It's a special edition or playable demo of such an iconic Saturn game, and it's all about Christmas. And it seems simple, like it's just one level, but there's so much replay value to it, especially in the options that you unlock. And there's lots of videos and image galleries, songs and stuff like that. But my favorite unlockable in Christmas Nights was, without a doubt, Sonic. Nowadays I've seen people kind of talk bad about it online, criticizing the controls and just the very concept of it. Like, Sonic doesn't belong in Nights. But at the time I just thought it was so cool to have Sonic. I mean, Sonic was this really iconic character in the 90s. Especially if you were a Sega fan. You just couldn't avoid it. Sonic was Sega and Sega was Sonic. And being able to play with Sonic in another game, these kinds of crossovers, they weren't very common. And being able to play with Sonic in another game unexpectedly, because I really didn't see that one coming. And seeing Sonic in 3D and being able to control it in 3D. The Saturn never really got a true 3D Sonic game. So the closest we got to that was the bonus mode in Sonic Jam and Sonic in Christmas Nights. And it was just so cool. So Christmas Nights really is a very, very special game for me, and I think for most Sega fans. What about you, Simon? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think you could get a more Christmassy game than Christmas Nights. I think it's the quintessential Christmas game. I remember buying it as a free giveaway in the official Sega Saturn magazine, and it became one of my most played games, despite the fact that I had a few full titles such as Clockwork Knight, Sega Rally, so on and so on. Christmas Nights became a game that I played over and over. I am a huge fan of Christmas in general, and being able to play a video game which was seasonal at a seasonal time was fantastic. I love the look of the game. I love the baubles, the Christmas trees. I love the fact that it changes with the dates. That to me was something that blew me away at the time. The fact that there could be different scenes on different days, that it would become winter nights after Christmas had finished and so on. So that blew me away. I love the presents. I love the fact that within a demo you have got the replayability to get the presents open, to find Sonic to play in the game and so on. And so for me, I guess Christmas Nights would be a quintessential gaming experience to happen at this time of year. There are a few other games that I like to play at this time of year. One of them is Clockwork Knight, which I feel has a Christmassy feel, but it's not a Christmas game. I also like to play Shenmue this time of year because I get a kick out of seeing Father Christmas wandering around. But Christmas Nights really is the game that makes Christmas for me. Another game which I absolutely adore playing at Christmas is the Segata Sanshiro game. I'm not going to say its Japanese name because I never call it that. I just call it the Segata Sanshiro game for the Saturn. It does have, of course, its official title, and that will flash up on the screen at some point. But yeah, the Segata Sanshiro game, I was obsessed with Segata Sanshiro in my first Saturn Junkyard days. And we developed a little bit of a cult around him where we would praise his name, and we would talk about dressing up as Segata, although we never did. We used to pretend that we did, and I even got someone to do a remix of the Segata Sanshiro theme because I was obsessed with him as a character, him as an advertising meme, I guess you would call him these days. I thought he was fantastic, and the fact that you could buy a Segata Sanshiro game for the Saturn, I think it was amongst the first Japanese imports that I got. Now, within the Segata Sanshiro game, there are several mini-games. The whole disc is a collection of mini-games, one of which is Segata's Present Drop. Again, that's not the official Japanese title for it, but that's what I call it. And in this game, you play as our titular hero, Segata Sanshiro, but this time you are Santa Segata Sanshiro, and you are flying in a sled or sleigh over the rooftops of all the boys and girls who are on the nice list. And as you fly over from left to right across the screen, you drop presents. Now, what you've got to do is you've got to drop the presents so they fall directly down the family's chimney. If you get the present down the chimney, that's great, and you accrue some points. If you don't, obviously, you don't get the points. What you have to do, what's essential in this game, is that you must time your dropping perfectly, because obviously the momentum of your sleigh as you fly over the chimneys is a factor that you have to take into consideration. So you have to drop the presents a little bit in advance of the chimneys in order for them to fall correctly. Now, as the game goes on, I believe that the game speeds up a little, and it gets more and more difficult to get the presents into the chimneys. There are, of course, many other games on this disc. It's a disc that I would recommend for all of its little mini games, but this is the seasonal one. This is the one that we have played before on the Segata Sanshiro challenge on the Sega Saturn Junkyard. I do seem to remember that it was only me that joined in with the challenge. Still, we had it up there as a challenge, and we may well sneak it back up again this year or next year, who knows. But it's a game that I would recommend 100%. As it is a seasonal game, it's a game which is specific for this time of year, and it's a game which is a lot of fun. It's the sort of game that you would probably find on a mobile phone these days, but it got a console release in Japan, never got one in Europe, never got one in America, so you have to import it or you have to burn it if you want to play it, but it's a great little game.
Well, now that the obvious choices have already been covered, let's go into something a little bit more obscure. My pick for this video is a rather obscure Japanese game called Father Christmas. And it actually might look familiar to a lot of you, since it was based on a very famous book by British author Raymond Briggs. And once again, it's very special to me because I read that book as a kid and I just love it. It goes into the more mundane, boring parts of the life of Father Christmas, where it just hangs around the house, making coffee and lighting up the fireplace and stuff like that. So the main mode for the game is kind of a mix between a puzzle game and a point-and-click adventure, where you get clues about location of Father Christmas, and you have to go around the world searching for him, and in the meantime you get to know a little bit more about these countries. There's also another mode, which is basically an encyclopedia, where you just can freely explore the globe and see what the game has to tell you about all of the countries. And you may get to know that my country supposedly is famous for its spores. And there's also a movie gallery where you can watch clips that look like they came from the animated movie adaptation of the book. Unfortunately, all of this is in Japanese, and this is a weird thing for me, because not only is it based on an English book, but when you go to the credits, most of the names there seem to be English names. And yet, for some reason, it was only released in Japan. Maybe it has to do with the business side of things, you know. The Saturn, as we all know, was a much bigger success in Japan than in the West. And because this game relies so heavily on text, you can't really play it without speaking the language. So unless you speak Japanese, this is only just a curiosity. You won't get much out of it, unfortunately. And that's really sad for me, because I was really looking forward to playing it. It looks really interesting. And because it's based on a book that I've read and it's very special to me, I would really like to be able to enjoy it. But I can't, because I just speak the language and you can't get over that barrier in this game specifically. And that about covers it. Have we missed any? Please let us know down in the comments. And in the meantime, we from the Saturn Junkyard wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. See you in 2019 with more awesome content about the Saturn. Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Also, for our brothers and sisters and androgynous flying jester friends out there who may celebrate other holidays like Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or Festivus, happy holidays to you as well. And also, I'm not going to forget our Sega faithful, for those of you out there who may worship another god by the name of Segata Sanshiro. Happy holidays to you as well, you heathens.